Good afternoon, first graders. For writing today, we're going to continue our holidays around the world. And we are wrapping up with our last holiday that we're going to celebrate this week and learn about, and that is the holiday of Diwali. So we're going to turn to the very back of our Holidays Around the World journal to the page that says Diwali. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can read this text with you and learn something new about this holiday. Okay, let's listen to learn a little bit more about Diwali. You may have already learned something new from your books that you listened to during reading today, but let's see if we learn anything else about this holiday from this shared reading. Diwali is the most popular holiday that is celebrated in India. However, the holiday is celebrated throughout the world as well. The word Diwali means row of lighted lamps. The holiday can also be called the Festival of Lights. Diwali is celebrated on the darkest night of the year. This is usually in October or November. To celebrate Diwali, people light small oil lamps called diyas. Families who celebrate Diwali leave these lamps burning all night. They believe that the goddess of wealth, named Lakshmi, will be welcomed by the light of the lamps to bring good luck to families. Some families also draw fancy patterns on the ground in front of their homes to welcome Lakshmi. These are called Rangoli patterns and are made with rice and flour and sometimes colored sand. Diwali lasts for 5 nights, and like many other holidays, gifts are shared, and spending time with family is important. Now, as I was reading that information about Diwali, it made me think about some things that are similar to other holidays we've learned this week. I learned that in this passage about Diwali, that it's about family, spending time with family. When I think about the other holidays we learned about this week, like Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, I also know that those are holidays that are meant to be shared with family. So that's something they all have in common. Now, I also learned that this holiday lasts for 5 nights. That's different than some of the other holidays we learned about, like Christmas, that's only celebrated 1 day, and Hanukkah, that's celebrated for 8 days. So these holidays are slightly different in their own ways, but always tell us it's a time for family. Now we're going to turn our paper over to the back, and it says things that stuck with me. So, we're going to think about some things that really stuck with me. What is something I learned about this holiday? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that we can write some things that we learned about Diwali from our text. Things that stuck with me. Now, as I'm reading nonfiction, I can always think about important details that I want to remember. And when I write those things down, it helps them stay in my brain so that I can remember them next time or teach someone else about the things that I've learned. So, as I read those words about Diwali, there were some things that I remembered. One of those things that I remembered, and I can look back to find it, was that it was also called the Festival of Lights. Now, I think that's an important thing to remember because it reminds me that another word for Diwali, or another name that we can call this holiday, is the Festival of Lights. And I think that's important information that I want to stick with me. So I'm going to add that to the sticky note on the back. Diwali is also called the Festival of Lights. If you need to pause this video, go ahead and pause this video to write these words on your sticky note too. Maybe you found something else that you might want to stick with you for information to share later. So if this wasn't something that you found to be important, you could always pick something else that you want to stick with you. When you're ready, unpause your video so that you can write something else that stuck with you from this passage. Another thing that stuck with me is that this holiday lasts for 5 nights. I think that's pretty neat that this festival of lights lasts for 5 whole nights. Diwali. Now remember, I'm writing an uppercase letter because it is a proper noun and it also starts my sentence. Lasts for 5 nights. If you need to, pause the video so that you can write down this information so it sticks with you too. Okay, I'm going to look back in my passage to see if there's something else that really stood out to me that I want to remember about this holiday. Oh, I know. Gifts are shared and spending time with family is important. So during this holiday, gifts are given and it's a time for family. I want that information to stick with me, so I'm going to write it down. Diwali is a time for family and gifts. Pause the video if you need to write down this information so it sticks with you too. Now I'm going to look back in my reading to see if I can find out one more thing that was really important to me. So I can remember more about this holiday. Oh, I know. Diwali is the most popular holiday that is celebrated in India. So this holiday is celebrated in India, but it's also celebrated throughout the world. That's pretty neat. I want to remember that. Diwali is celebrated in India and around the world. Now, boys and girls, you'll see that I read the information, and instead of just writing word for word that I had on the other side of the paper, I put these things into my own ideas. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just copying what the passage said, but rewriting it so it would help me remember. I want all of these things to stick with me. And if I write them in my own words, these ideas will stick with me and I'll be able to teach someone else about this holiday too. So, boys and girls, if you need to, you can always go back and pause the video to get those sentences written on your activity as well. Now, remember, if you wanted to write something different from the passage, you can always come up with your own ideas that you want to stick with you. This is our final holiday we were learning about this week in holidays around the world. And I hope that you learned something new about Diwali this afternoon, too.